Good afternoon. I'm here with Miss Holton and Miss Burrell. Only one is Yates alumni, and Miss Burrell, she is TSU alumni. So, with you being relatives to Mr. Yates, how do you think that Jack Yates now is holding on to his legacy?
Well, pretty much the way that it was in part. There are people who are continuing to carry on the legacy of Jack Yates through the alumni associations and and as well, there are quite a few people who probably graduated from Yates who may be at the school today that have a love for Jack Yates as well. Seemingly, the students are trying to withhold the legacy.
Okay. As well as with Emancipation Park, do you appreciate the new renovations and the new building to the park, or do you have mixed feelings about it?
Sort of mixed feelings. I like the building okay. I think that the grounds could be better because of the area where they have the children playing. It's more cemented than kid-friendly, let's say. But otherwise, cool.
Well, I like the fact that it is, has added some services and some aspects to the offerings of the Emancipation Park community, to the community. The structure that was there for so many years that we grew up with would not accommodate the kinds of things that people are interested in doing, and also to expand the opportunities for further cultural development and cultural preservation. So, and I like some of the programming that I've participated in there. It seems to be able to, attempting to touch a variety of things that interest people. And it's good to have improved communities. I do kind of miss the way it looked, but that's, you know, that's nostalgia. And I'm glad that we're able to get a really nice facility.
Okay, I agree. You know, I like the new building of the gym, and but also, like you say, I like the nostalgia of the old building as well. So with Jack Yates being a communications high school, did you also have some of the same communication classes when you were in school?
Not at all. No, we had great journalism class, classes under the historic McElroy, Georgia McElroy, and we had quite a few things that kids would do as far as going out, the speech and drama and all of this type of thing. They won quite a few awards and things of that nature. But as far as the communication school, like today, no, or like it was, even when Roland Martin was here, Mary Waits, and so forth, who was a teacher at the time. So we didn't really have to go.
I was going to say, my son had the opportunity to join the communication school, so I had a lot of contact with what was going on at the very early stages of the development of the communication school. I thought that was a wonderful addition and opportunity for our children, and you see the fruits of that. So many of our persons who've come through that have gone on to have really fantastic careers. So I hope that we'll continue to have support for quality education, quality equipment, and opportunities for you all to have internships and the other kinds of things that will enrich your career development.
Yes, ma'am, because I'm currently in radio broadcasting, so I agree with all those ideas as well. So for you, Ms. Burrell, seeing, Yates, do you ever think that, because you told me that you went to a private school for your 9th through 12th year, do you ever think that, like, you kind of wanted to go to Yates when you were in high school, or did you?
Yes, I would definitely would love to go to Yates. That was a family tradition. I happened to go to that school because my mother was an athlete and a scholar, and in her various roles in high school and college, she traveled a lot across the country. And during that time, it was segregated environment. So all the teams, all the organizations that were traveling across the country would stop at black colleges and high schools or private schools. And so happened that school was one she stopped at, and she said, if I ever have a daughter that's where she's going. It was a co-ed school, but she said, if I ever have a daughter, that's where she's going. And so it had nothing to do with not wanting to go to Yates. No, Yates is quite a part of my heart.
And she's been dedicated to it as well, and dedicated to our own high school.
Yeah, yes.
It was so segregated during that time, let's say, even when Haile Selassie's daughter came here, and he was over Egypt and so forth. She could not go to any of the white schools, and so they put her at Palmer Institute in North Carolina.
Okay. So I know that you both went to TSU, and you are. Okay. Well.
What would you like to know about it?
Reiterate.
Well, all 5 of us went to
all
TSU,
5.
actually. Our mother was a professor there and a dean as well. They needed someone to be on the campus, so we moved to the house that was on the campus. It was smaller than our original house, but it was all right. And
Right, you loved it.
yeah, it was nice. Deanna actually was Miss TSU in 60, 61, and so forth. She also was a part of the Black Power movement that was the sit-in time frame. She, Holly Holbrook, El Drury, Stearns, yes,
A lot of
and
young
so forth,
people.
yes. Otis King,
Holly,
quite a
her
few.
brother.
Yeah, Pete Holbrook, and so forth.
Right.
And when my time came along, well, the year before I got to TSU and still we were living on the campus, one night we heard a lot of banging on the door, and someone had run from the boys' dorm to let us know that the police were out there and had all the kids laying on the floor, on the ground, let's say, in their underwear and so forth. And you know, I was in 12th grade at the time, and I still chose to go to TSU because I loved it, and we all did, actually. We had 2 brothers and another sister who went there, too.
Well, we can continue this interesting conversation about being a TSU student right after we go to break.
Okay, I still like to talk about the class of 68.
Okay. Well, I don't see why you can't. As an example of what alumni interest in maintaining the school.
Good job, by the way. The sister in the printed jacket, she was a member of the Black Panther Party. So you want to ask about that on your next segment.
Probably need to talk about all of them.
Oh. What is that, Tanya? On the left.
Them in Germany.
Oh, Graham. Oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, those are teachers, black teachers. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Miss Boutte, you mean Miss Boutte? Mm-hmm. That's interesting, they would take that picture. Yeah, but there are a lot of teachers and principals, and many of them from Third War. I don't think Miss Mache went. Cause my stomach doesn't growl.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Hickman.
Miss Hickman? Right, you have an office situation, right?
Yeah.
Do you have something you have to do today?
No.
Okay, I'm ready to send her an email.
No. Oh, I was talking to Miss Jackson. He was talking to me.
Okay. I'm going to send her an email to let her know who you are.
Okay.
Thank you. Would you want us to say anything about how we grew up in the Third Ward or anything like that?
Yeah, it's okay. As I'm just listening to them, so I'll ask you questions about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're rolling.
So, welcome back, Miss Burrell. When you were at TSU, what first of all, what inspired you to go to TSU? That's a question for both of you.
Well, I suppose the fact that my mother was one of the original teachers at Texas Southern. Mm-hmm. She started teaching there when it was Old Houston College, and she would walk from our house, which was maybe about 8 blocks from our home to the original Jack Yates site. And so we kind of grew up on the campus, what that campus was, and then when we moved to Texas Southern, where it is now, became Texas State at some point, and then Texas Southern, we all grew up on the campus. I mean, she went to nursery school there. And it was just like, you know, that's what you were going to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had a lot of offers to other universities, especially having had certain other kinds of exposures. But it never entered my mind that I was going anywhere else but Texas Southern. And it wasn't brainwashing. It was just a part of my culture, a part of my life, and that was kind of what I was going to do. And besides that, I knew the great professors that Texas Southern had. I mean, bar none. Mm-hmm. No one was any better than the professors at Texas Southern. They've come from all major colleges and universities in the United States and internationally. So why not?
Ms. Holden?
Well, my main thing was that since Deanna went to a college prep school, and she was really, really smart, and she didn't go anywhere else, I said, and my other siblings had done the same, so I said, well, I'm going to TSU as well. Plus, I was pretty shy at the time, even though I'd been a cheerleader at Yates, but I'd gone back to my shyness. So I didn't, want to go anywhere else, and the fact that I knew almost all of the professors, because we grew up with them being our parents' friends, and being in organizations that, like Jack and Jill, and things like that. But TSU also presented, like she had mentioned, a group of professors who were teaching in their own field, and they were PhDs in their own field, or had a doctorate in their own field. So that was also said by 4 people who were doing all the campuses around the United States. 4 from Harvard, 4 from Yale, 4 from Stanford, and 4 from Princeton. And they wrote a book about the different schools and so forth, universities. And they talked about Texas Southern having higher amounts of PhDs teaching in their own fields than anyone else. Everybody else may have had professors at their universities like that, but they were doing research, so they had a lot of graduate students
TAs.
teaching. Yes, and so forth. So TSU was, it was just something that I wanted to do, wanted to be a part of.
Okay, so it seems like everything involving Yates and involving TSU has just been based on tradition. And you mentioned something about Jack and Jill, the Jack and Jill program. What is that? Can you elaborate?
Okay, yes. Jack and Jill was, it is, a program that, it's an organization that was built in, produced in 1938, I think it was in Chicago. But in Houston, it was brought in 1952 by one of our English teachers, Lenora, Mrs. Dorsey. Yes,
Librarian
Leonia Dorsey.
Dorsey.
Right, and she was my English teacher as well at Ryan. Our cousin, Goldie Hartshorn, was also the founder of that as well. And she was a counselor, actually, at Yates for years. And it's an organization that involves social, civic, recreational, cultural types of things, and it was brought about because of segregation. We could not go anywhere in Houston or anywhere in the United States where Caucasians went. So what we had to do, let's say for instance, we had to buy out the Alley Theater, okay? Because they would not go to the Alley or let us come to the Alley with them. So the Alley, I think, held 300 and some odd people. Now, of course, Jack and Jill didn't have that many kids, but we invited a lot of the community to come with us to fill up the place. And we saw plays and things like that. We would have our annual picnics. They had a debutante ball and so forth, which began in 1960. Smart Set had debutante balls earlier, and Jack and Jill didn't have it until 60. So she was a debutante with the Smart Set, but our other sister and I were, and my daughter, were Debs with Jack and Jill.
And it's really an organization of parents, mothers, for their children. And that's the focus of that particular organization. That's the traditional focus. That it's not a social club, it's not an elite club, but people are invited in because you have your friends, your relatives, and so forth who are asked to participate, who want to participate. And now, because we don't have segregation per se anymore, it has segued a little bit, maybe even to greater opportunities, broader experiences. But it's a group of people growing up together.
And because of integration now, because of Jack and Jill, they're able to come together as a group because you think about them going to different schools, so let's say like Lamar, Bel Air, and so forth, they really don't have the support like they would have with the Jack and Jill family. So they feel more at home once they go to meetings, once they go to their activities and things like that. So, and teen conference and all. So it's a nice organization. Yeah, it's not a club.
It seemed like a really nice organization, and I don't really hear much about it at Yates anymore. But from the sound of it, it needs to be brought back into the community. So we're on to our next break, and we will return.
Okay. I didn't know how white my stockings look. I should have gotten my darker ones. These are the ones that were on the where I washed them and hanged them up. I just grabbed them and put them up. I didn't realize they'd show the whole thing. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm wanting us not to come across as bougie people.
Yeah.
That's why I put in there about a mother's organization for our children. Not a club.
Dowling Street.
Dowling Street.
Elgin. Holman.
What, I guess you're just going to ask us what we liked about growing up, and I'm just going to talk about just the cultural climate.
Okay, welcome back. So we are going to talk about the Assure Foundation. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
The Assure Foundation is a book of biographies on people who have done things in Texas. They're black, all black. It's called the Negroes of Texas, Assure Foundation. They are professional people. You have the Jemisons, who had the Franklin Beauty School. James D. Ryan is in there. Our grandfather, Carl Lott. Dr. Pemberton, just so many. Tex Allen, Mr. Holland, who was the principal of Ryan for forever.
And Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan. Yeah, we said him. And quite a few. It's a very thick book. But there are a lot of ministers in there, a lot of professors, a lot of teachers, just community people that began organizations in there. Of course, those who own businesses all up and down Dowling Street or Emancipation Avenue now.
And Lyons.
Lyons, all the way to Leland Street down to Holman. And Holman Street had a lot of the doctors, pharmacists, and so forth. On Elgin Street, there was a very large, the second largest nursery that was owned by a grandfather, actually, in the southeast of Houston, of Texas, rather, and owned by a black. I think the biggest one was owned by what was the Japanese man who had
supplied Japanese nursery.
Yes,
I can't think of his name.
it was the Ellington Air.
The Ellington Air Force took it over
yes.
during the World War II.
Right.
They conscripted it.
But the Shear Foundation definitely would give everybody an outlook on how the beginning of even Houston had begun with the black group. Now, they started doing magazines, kind of thick magazines called A Shear Foundation about 15 years ago, actually. And it's some, younger people who are now probably in their 30s and 40s that took after that.
So next to the Green Book, who are in those photos?
Oh, those photos? Okay. On the right-hand side of the Green Book, that's our parents, Dr. Mabel Lott and Carl Lott. They met at Tuskegee in 1934 and married in 1939.
In the Tuskegee Chapel.
Yep, at the Tuskegee Chapel on campus,
They
that's
look so
correct.
happy.
Yeah, they were. And on the left-hand side, you see a group of teachers and a principal. Our grandmother's to the far right, my daddy's mother's to the far right in the black sweater. And they're in Germany right there. They had gone on a European tour together. And actually, many of them taught or were administrators for 40 some odd years. They are from a group at Gregory Elementary School at that time.
Okay. So do you think that the Green Book, Shear Foundation, do you think that it portrayed a really good image on the black people who shaped Third Ward, shaped the community?
Definitely.
And does it have a list of memoirs and, stories from those people that are in the books?
Yes. In part, yes, they do, from where they came from as well as what they were doing in the community and so forth.
I think it's an excellent resource. It's just that it's not available. It's not, it's not in print anymore. And I think those kinds of documents get lost. There happens to be one in our family, and she's the caretaker of all the historical material in our family, and anything she can find out about Third Ward and Yates High School and TSU. So that's and Blackshear, right? So that's kind of right. All those that have been a part of our history. But my father and his father were really historians about black people, and including our foundation in Africa. And so they collected things, and my grandmother, of course, and my mother. Sometimes they actually had 2 documents or 3 documents of the same thing because they were interested in the same things. So I wish those kinds of materials would be more available, and some things even brought back so that we can have a compendium where people can go, and not just in our memories, but they can go. You could go and see it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. It was nice talking to the both of you, so we're going to wrap it up. So thank you.
Thank you for having us. I had a good time with you.
Thank you. And thank you, Jack Yates.